What's up, Jeff fans? I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Well, everyone except to people who said bench Zach Wilson. Um, I'll get into my thoughts on that once I cover the offense, but first, a miserable 34-13 loss on Black Friday. The pregame show and everything was really hyping up. This is the very first Black Friday game, and now Jet fans can remember it as a terrible loss, 34-13 against the Dolphins. A miserable game. They never really seemed in control or had a chance. I was like thinking to myself, just because Black Friday magic or whatever. Oh, maybe this will go down in history as the Tim Boyle game, but that is definitely not, or maybe it will, but for the wrong reasons. Um, so just a terrible game, and so let's just jump into it. So first, as I was alluding to, um, the Zach Wilson. If you watch this game, which most of the country did, as there was no other games going on, how can you tell me it's Zach Wilson's fault? How can you blame Zach Wilson? Tim Boyle just looked just as terrible, if not worse. And just to be clear, I'm not even blaming Tim Boyle either. It's this offensive line is terrible. It's his receivers can't do anything. His running backs can't do anything because they have no offensive line either. So I'm not even trying to say, oh, Tim Boyle is terrible either. Um, we don't know because he has no chance. And at least Zach Wilson shows flashes. And I know, oh, he's in like his third or fourth year. We should be beyond flashes. And that's true, except for the fact that he can't do anything because um, he has no team around him, no offense around him, anyways. Um, and so this is what I mean by, so now they bench Zach Wilson, and this is what the fans wanted, and it's the exact same result. So I don't know how you can say it's Zach Wilson's fault. I'm not a Zach Wilson like truther or like supporter. Like I don't think he's great or anything, but if you actually watch the games, which I think lots of the analysis and stuff, they don't watch the games. If you actually watch the games, it's clearly not Zach Wilson's fault. And what I find funny is, before this game anyways, every time the Jets were on prime time, which they are a lot, people are like, oh, Zach Wilson actually didn't have a bad game. It's just his team is terrible. Well, yeah, that's what happens every game. That's a bit of exaggeration, to be fair, but that's what I'm saying. It's the offense as a whole is terrible. It's not his fault. You switched him out, and now Tim Boyle is just as bad, if not worse. He's showing zero flashes. And the Jets aren't going to restart Zach Wilson because that is a terrible look. Or maybe they will, but that's a terrible look if they do. I think they should anyways because I think if you watch practice, he's the best player they have, the best quarterback they have. Um, so all around, just a terrible game. And then, of course, the commentators, which were crapping on the Jets the entire time, they bring up the Hail Mary, the pick six, after the Jets got a interception. They then threw a pick six, a 99-yard pick six. Absolutely miserable. And once again, to say Tim Boyle had a terrible game, I think would be not entirely accurate either. It's just Zach Wilson, or it's just the Jets' offense rather, is terrible. There's no getting around it, and so the quarterback can't do anything, of course. Um, so yeah, just a terrible offensive performance. This game proves it's not Zach Wilson's fault and it's not really even Tim Boyle's fault either, but Zach Wilson deserves to start. But they're not gonna, because if they do that, then they look like a bunch of idiots, which maybe this team is run by a bunch of idiots. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. You can see I'm very frustrated. Defense. Defense played well. So maybe this is the bright part. The defense definitely played well. It was a 34-13 loss, except for they were on the field so much and they either give up or get tired depending on which way you want to spin it because the offense can't do anything. So the Jets defense is playing like two games relative to the other defenses. And one of the 6 of the 34 points was a pick six, so you can't blame them on that. And then they held them to a good amount of field goals. And then, of course, at the end of the game, they kind of let in a few touchdowns. And I think that's because the Jets gave up. So why, once again, as I've been saying in other videos, why should this defense risk their body in a game that's already a loss? Rest up for next game, I think. So once again, I think the defense is playing well, and every time in my videos I say they play well, but they don't get enough turnover or they need to score points to win. They actually did score points and they still lost, so I don't know. But DJ Reed got an interception and then Brandon Echols got a pick six. So I just want to shout them out. Also, Tyreek Hill getting injured really early on, but still playing. I think helped out the Jets defense a lot. But like I said, the Jets defense, if there's a bright spot in this game, I think they played pretty well, especially against this high-powered offense. That being said, the two asterisks are Tyreek Hill had was injured during the game, and um, they definitely gave up at the end. But I understand why, to be honest. Anyways, conclusion. Um, I watching the US thinking if Aaron Rodgers wasn't on this team, there'd be so many firings. Nathaniel Hackett off the bat, I think he would be gone before this game. But Aaron Rodgers wants him there, which I understand why, but it's not working without Aaron Rodgers, I guess. The penalties, I think Robert Saleh should or not should be, but would be or maybe is on the hot seat if there wasn't an Aaron Rodgers there for next year because the penalties they're getting, the offense is terrible. They got in a fight this game. They got in 3 fights last game. They actually punched a ref this game by accident, but um, there's so many penalties, which is coaching. If like statistically, it's coaching, which is buck stops here. That's Robert Saleh's fault. He needs to fix that. Um, and then once again, Joe Douglas I have on the screen. I know he had a great draft, that one draft, but this offensive line talent is absolutely terrible. The announcers were saying it. The Dolphins were actually running 3 backups. Um, and I think that just goes to show that it's not like, oh, as soon as you get an offensive line backup, your offensive line is terrible. No, the Jets just didn't acquire any good offensive lines, which Joe Douglas said he would. He was like an offensive line guy. He said, I'm going to build the offensive line and build the defensive line. He definitely built the defensive line, which is a great unit, even though they didn't have the greatest of games this week, actually, but still a great unit. Um, but this offensive line, the Dolphins have injuries too, so I don't want to hear injuries. And even if the offensive line started all their starters, looking at their offensive line on paper is still not that good. And that's why Zach Wilson looks like he sucks. That's why Tim Boyle can't prove himself at all because he can't get a throw off. Um, I know, I'm sorry this video was really negative. Just had to get my thoughts out there. But like I said, there is an Aaron Rodgers. That's why these people aren't being fired. I'm not saying fire these people, just to be clear. I think I like Robert Saleh, I like Joe Douglas, Nathaniel Hackett. If he's friends with Aaron Rodgers, then fine. I say keep him. But that's the bright spot about all this. Aaron Rodgers is here. So hopefully next year, because he can't start this year because this offensive line is terrible. Draft their offensive linemen, sign offensive linemen free agents, and then put Aaron Rodgers out there. So I can't believe I'm saying this, especially at the start of the year. I don't think I would be saying this week, but there's always next year. Look to the draft. An absolutely miserable Black Friday game, and the entire country saw it too. So I hope the media changes their stance on Zach Wilson because the fact that Tim Boyle couldn't do anything either, I think proves that the offense was not Zach Wilson's fault. It's the O lines, it's the offensive coordinators, it's the receivers who can't drop. Alan Lazard didn't even play, just to be clear. He didn't play this week. So I don't know. Um, a very frustrating game, but look to the draft. I would say now. There's no way we make the playoffs anymore. Look to the draft. Thanks for watching. Maybe next week we'll be happier. I don't think so. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Bye.